Hey guys, Brendan Burns here, and for those who don't know, I got into a skateboarding car accident on March 23rd, 2019. I play in a basketball league, and the craziest thing was I was already injured because this was the last regular season game. It's a 6 week league, and in the first week, while driving to the hoop, I got blocked by this guy and I sprained my thumb really bad. And my thumb went all the way back, and it was tendons were probably stretched and potentially partially torn. Did not need an MRI or surgery, but it was a bad injury. So I've been in a hand cast for the past 4 or 5 weeks. And I woke up this morning and I said to myself, wow, this is gone pretty much. The case is preventative, and I was feeling really good about my health and my recovery. Also, for those who don't know, I have an electric skateboard, and this was inspired by Casey Neistat, who is a vlogger and YouTuber who creates really cool, really awesome content. And I love Casey's mission and his energy, and he's been a big inspiration on my journey. So for those of you who don't know him, you can check him out. And he lives in New York City, same city that I live in right now. And he is a huge fan of what's called the boosted board, which is an electric skateboard, also known as an e-board. And since I started following him probably in 2015, so at least 3 years, I've seen him ride this around, and I just love his thirst for life and his contrarian nature, and how he can take risks and really just live life to the fullest. And I've always wanted a boosted board. And over the summer, this past summer, so about 9 months ago, I was on a call with a gentleman I was introduced to who was in a similar line of business as me. And all I could pay attention to during it was a video call was in the back of his in the background was a boosted board, which is something that had been on my list for years. It's something that really wanted, and I just had never pulled the trigger. They're a little pricey, like. The one that I got cost about $1,700. And so, but on that call, I was like, you know what? Do you like it? He's like, I love it. And I pulled the trigger and I bought it. And the first thing that I noticed when I got the board over the summer was how, because I'm a big bike rider too. I have my own bicycle, and I do what's called city biking here in New York City. It's like the bike share program. And I'm like the biggest proponent of it. I've been on probably thousands of rides for thousands of miles. I'm a heavy city biker, or I was. And people always told me, be careful, you're crazy. Like, I would never bike ride in the city. And I always said, yeah, it's not that dangerous. And I don't even wear a helmet when I city bike. Um, and and then I got and I never had any issues with the city bike, always really in control. And then I got the skateboard, and then my first thought was, oh my goodness, this is 1,000 times more dangerous than bike riding. Because like I said, I've been bike riding my whole life, but really in New York City, even aggressively bike riding for 5+ years. And I've never even really come close. Maybe a few close calls, but nothing really close. And getting the skateboard within the first few months, I had a lot of close calls, not necessarily with like head-on traffic, but I've bumped into a bunch of people slowly. I had my own crashes, like into fences and stuff. Nothing too terrible, but I noticed very quickly how much harder it is to control a skateboard, especially an electric skateboard, than a bike. So that's the first thing I just want to say is, if you're going to go the e-boarding route, be extremely hyper careful. Next thing, when I started riding the skateboard, I did not wear a helmet. And I was skating, just kind of trying to learn how to skate better. And I was riding, and I saw this guy who was clearly very experienced e-boarder. And I just kind of flagged him down, and I was asking him for some tips because I was new to this. I've never skateboarded in my life, by the way, before this. I know how to snowboard and surf a little bit, but this was really new for me, the skateboarding thing. And he just looked at me and he's like, well, the first thing is you have to have a helmet. And I'm feeling really grateful right now, but also really scared, because if it wasn't for him, and if it wasn't for my grandmother who bought me the helmet that I wear years ago, when I said I didn't need one, and she initially bought it for me for the purposes of bike riding. But if I wasn't wearing that helmet, I probably wouldn't be recording this podcast in my apartment right now. I am in my home office. I got into the accident probably two and a half hours ago. I'm very banged up, but I hit my head very hard with a very protective, very strong helmet that absorbed the blow. And so just to, the topic of this podcast is 5 lessons that I've learned from this accident. And I haven't even gotten into them, but I'm already noticing a bunch of big takeaways that hopefully will inspire you guys to ride safe and just in general be careful in your lives. So without further ado, I'm going to share 5 lessons from this skateboard car accident that I just got into. And just quickly, the accident was I was riding down 2nd Avenue in Manhattan in a protected bike lane, and I had the right of way to go straight, and a large van just made a hard left turn, and I had nowhere to go. I could have potentially dove hard left to try to avoid him, which in retrospect is what I should have done. What I tried to do was get around him to the right, but there just wasn't enough room, and I basically went head on into him. And I kind of ducked my shoulder. So really my shoulder and head and back of my head took the blow mostly. And my head is fine, thankfully, because of the helmet. And my shoulder is the only thing where I feel a sprain. And by the way, it was a hard collision. I hit the car. It was a car crash, 100% crash. And the van drove off quickly, hit and run. So anyway, I'm not bitter about that. I'm not going to play victim. I'm just going to tell you, these are the 5 lessons that I've had in the past hour or two since this skateboard car accident. Number 1, in life, take calculated risks, not uncalculated risks. So for example, a calculated risk is, yes, you can skateboard, but go slow, especially if you live in New York City. Know your limits. Know your braking system. Always have an out. I didn't have an out in that situation. Or I got aggressive and I said, oh, okay, well, I have the safe out, but let me try to be fancy and I don't want to stop and slow down. I get frustrated. I need to always go fast. So that's the uncalculated risk. The calculated risk is, yes, you can ride a skateboard, but be very careful, go slow, always have a safe out, and go for that out when necessary. I'll give you another calculated versus uncalculated risk. I started my own business a couple years ago, doing very well, multi 6 figures, projecting 7 figures, dream life. Can't be more grateful. So lucky, and I could not have done this alone. This is not, oh, I'm so special. This is a conglomeration of a lot of things that have worked out for me, a lot of amazing people who have joined my team. And we'll get to that, and that's one of the other lessons. But again, a calculated risk is, I saved up and I had savings for 2 full years of cash flow. Gary Vee likes to say cash is oxygen when you're starting a business, versus an uncalculated risk of just quitting without having any savings or having a business plan. For example, when I left the hedge fund, like I said, I had 2 years of savings and I had been working on my business on the side for a full year, and I had the full business plan, the model. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, and to me, that felt more like a calculated risk than an uncalculated one. So whether it's with adventure sports or skydiving or bike riding or starting a business, risk is not inherently a bad thing. Uncalculated risk is. Second lesson from my skateboard car accident. Our bodies are our temples. You only get one body. And if you get into a serious accident, it could be something that lingers. You only get one body. Take care of it and think long term. For example, kind of unrelated to this accident I got in, but applicable to my life and probably billions, if not hundreds of millions of lives out there, is especially in Western society, we live a very sedentary lifestyle. So we get into our car, we get to our desk, we get to our seat, we get to our closet. We live in these confined worlds now where there isn't a lot of movement, a lot of steps, a lot of exercise or activity. And that can create things like, as opposed to my accident right now, which is more acute, it can create what's called chronic pain, things that happen slowly over time. And the best way to fight that off is by being active, by going to the gym, by doing physical therapy, even preventatively, and remembering that we only have one body. and I noticed that I was having some knee pain. For me, it was probably from biking too much and going too hard with the sports. But I said, look, I only have one. This is my only body. And if my left knee is messed up, I got to go rehab it hard. And I did a lot of physical therapy and a lot of going to the gym and focusing on strengthening my knee and the muscles around it and flexibility around it, because I was just on a trip to the Grand Canyon and we were doing a ton of hiking, and I want to be able to be healthy and not take care of my body. Don't neglect our bodies, thinking that, it's not going to go away, or, and it's something that's near and dear to my heart as I've, I'm now 32. So like getting older and realizing like we have to take care of ourselves. And that was something my grandmother has done really well into her 80s. Always stretched really well and took care of herself and ate really healthily, versus my grandfather, who died in his early 80s, which is still a long life. But I mean, he just really went off the deep end. Like everything just fell apart for him health-wise because he didn't eat well. He drank heavily. He traveled excessively, like not taking care of himself. And probably the most importantly, just worked excessively. So our body is our temple. And it's the most important thing. If you look at what's called the pyramid of life, where we have different sections such as fun and family and emotions and spirituality and career and finances, this is the base of the pyramid. The bottom level is our health and wellness. And I can get into past illnesses I've had. I struggled with chronic neck pain, which was related to anxiety and not taking care of myself. And if you're sitting there in chronic pain that you can do something about, then it's going to affect your emotions, it's going to affect your happiness, your money, other areas of your life. So you can be a multi-millionaire, but if you don't have your health, it's hard to enjoy that. And I'm not trying to put down anyone who has like a debilitating disease or a chronic thing or something genetic. My heart goes out to you if you're suffering from that, because I've been there to some degree. But we only have one body. And this accident was a big wake-up call. I went basically head-on into a van, 20 plus miles an hour. It's not a slow skateboard. It goes up to 24 miles an hour. I was maxing out my speed on the third gear, which is 20 miles an hour. Lesson number 3, do not try to do life alone. In the past year or so, I've really come to grips with the fact that life is meant to be done with other people. When I got into my accident, I hit the car, I fell back. As I was getting up, the van sped off. I looked to my right, and the skateboard was in basically the middle of the street on 2nd Avenue, and the car was stopped. And I went and I picked up my skateboard, and I found my remote. Obviously not important, but those things are $100. And I got it back. And but I was really shaken up. Like I'm still in a good amount of pain in my shoulder right now, and my neck and my back. But I wasn't even in the pain. It was the adrenaline and the fight or flight. And I rolled everything over, and I just said, let me just sit down for a minute. And I sat down on like the side street, and the most amazing woman came over to me, and she said, "Are you okay?" And she said she was a nurse, and she was asking me questions. And she was a good nurse, well-trained, because she was mostly focused on my neck and my head and my dizziness, because that's really the most important thing. And again, why I'm so grateful that I had that helmet on, because I would not be recording this podcast right now. I don't think I would be dead. I'd probably have a concussion, a severe concussion with potential brain damage. I don't know. It's scary to even say that. So again, wear your helmets, guys. But this woman, Denise, came over. She talked to me for a little while. She said, wait here. She went to a deli. She got me a drink and a snack. She got me into a taxi. She followed up with me to make sure I was feeling okay. She offered to call an ambulance or take me to the hospital herself. And just so grateful for other people in my life. Because I couldn't even really move I was so just emotionally shaken up, and having someone to help me. And then I got home, and then I called my girlfriend, and she has been amazing and supportive, and she's out on Long Island with 2 of her friends for a bachelorette party. And she's been offering to come back into the city and stay with me tonight and take care of me. And just like all these people in my life makes me very grateful. And a lesson from this accident is don't do life alone, or don't try to do it alone. It can't be done alone. Anything great requires help from other people. Every startup requires a team, and or funding, and every, good company needs, even Instagram, one of the leanest companies in the world, when it was sold to Facebook, still had 9 employees, didn't have 1. And to scale it to where it is now, it got a cash injection of almost $1 billion in acquisition price, and tons and tons and millions, if not billions of dollars in resources invested from the Facebook side into Instagram. That's just a business example of not trying to do things alone. In life, in my past, undergoing heavy abuse in my childhood, and then discovering that, and then doing a lot of interpersonal development work over the past bunch of years, I isolated a lot because it was scary to do the work. I was angry at people because certain people, like my parents, hurt me growing up, and I've forgiven them, and I know that they did the best that they could. But for a long time, I isolated, and having people in my life, even letting this nurse help me, letting my girlfriend in, there's a quote that I have hanging up in my home office, and I'm looking at it right now. It says, "People want to love me, let them." So a big takeaway from this accident, and anything that, because I know that if you're listening to this episode right now, and I know there are people listening because we have thousands of downloads and a zillion Instagram followers, and I'm very grateful for that. I know that I'm in someone's ear right now, and if you're listening, I know that you are going through something in your life. You may be in an amazing place, but even still, there's something more that you might want from your career, or your mission, or your soul's purpose, or spiritually, or financially. Maybe you're not where you want to be. Maybe you're making a couple $100,000 and you want to make more, or you want to buy an apartment, or you want more vacation, whatever you want. And it's great to have goals. Let other people help you. There is no shame in asking for help. And that was the first thing that came to me. I was like, I'm just going to go home. I'm not going to tell anyone. This isn't a big deal. And part of that was because I was blaming myself for this accident. Like, who the F rides a stupid electric skateboard? What are you doing, Brendan? Everyone told you it's so dangerous, and you did it anyway. This is your fault. So I was trying to hide from that. So you might not have what you want in life yet, and you might feel some kind of embarrassment about that. And I just want you to know that you're crushing it, and you're doing the best you can. And you might be at that plateau because you haven't let others in. Maybe you getting a business coach, or a best friend, or a mastermind you can join, or even asking your wife or your parents and just say, "Hey, look, I am doing well, and I want to go to the next level. I want your support in getting there." So don't try to do life alone. It's meant to be done with others. Life lesson 4 from my skateboard car accident is trust. Trust that things will be okay, especially in those moments of fear. One of the biggest things that I realized when I got back to my apartment and I was able to get into the elevator and get back was that I was not trusting that I would be okay. I had a pattern that I've broken now of, if something happens, I used to feel this permanency to it, like this. It's whatever I'm dealing with isn't going to go away. And this went all the way down to like a sore throat, or like a stubbed finger, or like these minor ailments that I would panic, and I would have this, like, the pain would be there, but the emotional pain would be worse because there was this fear that I wouldn't get better, or that I wouldn't be okay, or that things wouldn't go away. And I'm sitting here right now, and I definitely have a bunch of things going on. I have, a little very small, like, internal bleeding on my thumb, which hit the car. I have a bruised glute on my left side. My neck is a little shaky, and then really the biggest injury is to my shoulder because the shoulder hit the car. And there's probably some tissue, bruising, stuff going on there, and that's causing pain, and definitely going to go to my physical therapist and go get x-rays and do all that as necessary. So I recommend that. But I think the bigger issue was like the trauma associated with the car collision and like feeling that, not trusting that this will all get better, because it might take a week, it might take a month, it won't take a year. Worst case scenario, probably 8 to 12 weeks on all this stuff. But just knowing that it will get better. Our bodies heal. And especially when we take care of them and we get the proper treatment. Like if something is broken, go, getting the x-ray, doing what you need to do to get that right treatment. And at the end of the day, trusting that everything will be okay. And I don't know what your relationship is with the universe or with God or with some higher power, but sometimes handing over trust to something bigger than ourselves is the best way to let go and just accept that things will be fine. And if you don't believe me, if you're sitting here shaking your head saying, oh, Brendan, I've tried to trust and this problem I'm dealing with, this thing will not go away. It's because you're in it. It's because you're in that temporary phase of you're in it. And I guarantee you've been through worse in your life and you've gotten through it. Tell me you're in the most painful breakup of your world, or you just got laid off. I guarantee you that you've been through something harder in your life. Think about it right now. What is the hardest thing that you've ever gone through in your life? Did you get fired? Was it a divorce? Was it losing a parent? Think about it right now. What's the hardest thing that you've had to face in your life? And I acknowledge that it hurt and it was painful and you might still have emotions around it, but I guarantee you got through it. And if you got through it then, ask yourself what got you through that and apply whatever your process was in the past that got you through that thing to what's going on right now. And just try to have a little bit more trust that things will be okay this time, knowing that you've been through worse in the past. The last lesson from my skateboard car accident, lesson number 5, is that life can be taken from us at any moment. I woke up this morning, watching TV shows, meditating, hanging out, everything was fine. And then a couple hours later, head-on crash. Not head-on, not like the car hit me head-on, but crashed right into the back of a van, going 20 plus miles an hour, not in a car, just my body. And again, thank God for the helmet, and thank God nobody was going faster. But our lives can be taken from us like that. And if you don't believe me, go read Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I think it's chapter 17. He talks all about death and all about how quickly a life can be taken from you. And by the way, if you lose your life, that's it. I mean, I don't know what you believe in terms of the afterlife or reincarnation if you're into Buddhism. But as far as this life goes, when you lose it, that's it. There's no post-mortem aftermath, or, the post-mortem, you're not involved in it. So gratitude for being alive, gratitude for just being here. Make the most of this. Make the most of what you have, because we don't know how much time we have left. So those are my 5 takeaways from this skateboarding car accident that I just got into. I'll keep everyone posted on my email list. If you're not on my list, you can get in through brendanhburns.com. I'm at Brendan H. Burns on Instagram. You can always find stuff there. You'll see updates, stories. I'll keep everyone posted. I want you all to learn from my mistakes. When I was in high school, 2 things happened within a very short period of time. One, I was visiting a friend in Boston and also participating in like a science research convention when I was, I think, a senior in high school. And I binge drank a ton of vodka and I blacked out and I woke up in a hospital bed. And I had a scar on my face and it was really bad. And then like a month or 2 later, I got into a car accident and I totaled the car. And I just remember my grandfather turning to me and saying, Brendan, it's time for you to start learning life lessons without having to go through them. So I hope that you guys can learn some lessons from me today without having to go through them. And that's another takeaway that I'm having is how can I take care of myself better? How can I protect myself more? Now, these things are inevitable. You can't control everything in life. But try to learn lessons from others. You don't have to go through all the worst things to get lessons. Now, sometimes the hardest things that you go through are the biggest lessons, and that helps me get through the tough times. But try to learn from this. Try to learn from my experience and take these things forward in your life. So take calculated risks, not uncalculated ones. Number 2, remember that your body is your temple. You only get one, so take good care of it. Number 3, do not try to do life alone. It's meant to be done with others. Let other people into your life. Number 4, have trust in yourself. And if you can't trust yourself, trust something greater than yourself. And last but not least, remember, life can be taken from us at any moment. So practice gratitude for having this life and make the most of your life. Be safe. I love you all. And tune in again for our next episode of The Brendan Burns Show.